Across the lands between and the realm of shadow, some enemies appear in unexpected places. In this video series, we examine 5 of these encounters and theorize about their placements. This time, we'll look at Basilisks, Beastmen, Wandering Nobles, Flame Chariots, and the Dancing Lions. Let's dive in. Basilisks are amphibious creatures, mostly dwelling in dark and humid environments. The fake set of eyes on their heads resemble those of Godwyn, the fallen demigod turned into a soulless husk. Many of them dwell in the flooded remnants of the nameless eternal city, just a short distance from his twisted remains, as if they're attracted to it. To the northwest of the Shadow Realm, we find the Scorpion River catacombs, where one of Godwyn's cadaver growths is guarded by a Death Knight. In this remote burial crypt, basilisks were sculpted into statues, capable of inflicting death blight through their floating eyes, a lethal defense mechanism against intruders. Interestingly, they can be disabled by weapon skills connected to the Rune of Death, once again supporting a direct connection to Godwyn, who was slain by similar weapons. Maybe these creatures were honored by those who live in death, who share a common affinity with Godwyn's death blight. Oriza's hero's grave, located near the capital, likely was the intended tomb of Godwyn, as suggested by several hints. A few basilisks dwell in this place, such as these 2, which guard the golden epitaph sword, commemorating Godwyn's death. We also find them in the subterranean shunning grounds, the sewer network beneath the capital. These 2 locations are geographically close to Godwyn's remains, which doesn't seem like a coincidence. In addition to these specimens, several other groups are found further west, generally around pools of noxious liquids. These locations include the Shaded Castle, Mount Gelmir, and the Lake of Rot. We even find them dwelling near molten lava at the Volcano Manor. Assuming they were spawned by Godwyn's Deathroot, one plausible theory is that they migrated west through underground caves. Alternatively, maybe their species predates Godwyn's fall and evolved in symbiosis with Deathblight. Beastmen are animalistic humanoids who fervently worship the ancient dragons. Most of them dwell in Farum, Azula, the floating mausoleum where countless of their kin are entombed. According to the Beastman Ash's description, they were chosen to guard this place, likely by their draconic masters. Based on the variety of enemies spawning here, there's actually quite a lot going on in Farum Azula, with several storylines and factions intersecting. Judging from their positions, The Beastmen might be guarding the way down to Placidusax, not Malekith's room. Meaning, they probably don't care much for the Rune of Death, and remained focused on their ancient duty to the Dragon Lord, unbothered by current affairs. The Dragon Barrow Cave is located to the northeast of Caelid, not far from the Bestial Sanctum. Deep inside the cave, past a rune bear and a pack of wolves, we find a couple of beastmen. Maybe they wandered in at a time when Farum Azula was still intact, and the beastmen were still present on the continent. They seemingly became stranded here, though, unable to come out due to a cave-in, perhaps, or because of the giant rune bear blocking the exit. Another isolated beastman is found in Limgrave, right near the start of the game. Several ruin fragments lie nearby, possibly explaining how he got there. When these chunks of the crumbling mausoleum fell on Limgrave, maybe he survived the fall and settled in the nearest cave. In more recent times, it seems soldiers of Godric attempted to slay him and claim the cave, which didn't end well for them. Wandering nobles are one of the most common enemies in Elden Ring. In the wake of the Shattering, these aristocrats abandoned their birthplace, perhaps in hopes of escaping the coming conflict. Over time, they lost their wits and turned into zombified hollows, unable to pass away due to the Rune of Death's confinement. Most of them are now roaming along roads and ancient ruins, aimlessly searching for things long forgotten. Others were subjugated by stronger foes, like the Caden sellswords, seemingly exploiting their mindless obedience. They were also put to work in Gelmir's hero's grave, where noble pages are overseeing an excavation, possibly looking for ancient treasure to pillage. In the Volcano Manor's throne room, some of them emit a green cloud, as if they're infected by something. Maybe they were poisoned by man-serpents who used venom to keep them docile before offering them as sacrifices to Rykard. Back in Limgrave, a large group of them dwells in a Geel lake, where they beckon the local dragon to burn them. They've evidently retained enough sentience to understand their fate, and came here in search of a true death. Fire is, after all, the Erdtree's weakness, and, by extension, that of its bountiful grace of gold as well. Flame chariots are armored war machines, seemingly crafted by the fire monks. They're modeled after the face of fire giants, a design meant to evoke horror in their foes. Several of them patrol around Fort Lade, on the northwestern side of Mount Gelmir. They were probably used by fire monks against the local garrison of Lendel soldiers, who had no means of defending themselves from such siege weapons. Another one patrols near a fire monk encampment in Liurnia. The reason for their presence here is twofold. First and foremost, the fire monks are hunting Adan, a traitor to their cause who stole an incantation of the fell god. Furthermore, they appear to have allied themselves with the Academy. We know the rebels of Raya Lucaria hired mercenaries to fight against the Carians. So, perhaps they bought flame chariots from the fire monks as well. It would explain why they're part of the fortified position of the Academy Gate Town, guarding the southern gate from invaders. Another chariot is located on the Bellum Highway, the paved road that leads to the Grand Lift of Dectus, another key position for the Academy rebels, who probably sought to cut off the Carians from reinforcements. Ever since the Battle of Ionia and the legendary duel between Radan and Malenia, scarlet rot has infested Caelid's landscape. In their attempts to contain it, the Redmane clan presumably hired flame chariots, like the ones at Fort Gale. Armed with their firepower, they set up fiery barricades and incinerated the infected villagers of Caelum, which might have prevented the rot from spreading further west. Despite Messmer's affinity with fire and the Hornsent's fear of the fire giants, there are no flame chariots to be found in the Land of Shadow, possibly hinting that fire monks hadn't yet left the mountaintops at the time of the Crusade. In Hornsent culture, divine beasts were considered messengers of the heavens. Their strongest warriors performed rites of divine invocation, drawing power from the ancient crucible of life. The most accomplished of them became sculpted keepers, also known as dancing lions, acting as protectors of sacred places. Several of them were slain by Messmer and his men, though one of them survived the sacking of the tower settlement. It guards the terrace at the top of Belurat, just below the main entrance to Enir Ilim. Based on the nearest site of grace, this place was considered a stage, hinting that lion dances were witnessed by spectators, like a sort of sacred theater play. Perhaps the lower castes of Hornsent society weren't allowed to climb further up the spiral tower. So, this was the closest they could get to witnessing divinity. In the western section of the Rao ruins, a large temple remains mostly intact. Another dancing lion stands guard here, highlighting its importance as a holy site of the Hornsent. Interestingly, this one is capable of using Deathblight, probably due to its proximity with the Scorpion catacombs down below. If you enjoy my content, remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.